Tonight was from Luang Por Banjong, and he began with the Namo Tassa at the beginning of the Dhamma talk, and then he said a Pali saying Sapa Papasa Akaranam Kusala Supa Sampada Sajita Karyodapanam Etang Buddha Sasananti. This is the Avada Padimokkha, which is the three simple teachings of the Buddha. That means to abstain from all evil and to cultivate goodness to one's utmost, to purify one's mind. This is the teaching of all the Buddhas. So this is the time for listening to Dhamma. Dhamma is something which everyone has. Dhamma is your body, speech and your mind. Or, from a different angle, Dhamma is the anicca, dukkha and anatta of all things. This is the true Dhamma of impermanence, suffering and not self. Or from the third angle, Dhamma is the practice of training in sila or morality, training in samadhi or mental development, and training in panya or wisdom. The first aspect, sila or morality, is for the abandoning of coarse defilements, the abandoning of greed, anger and delusion. There's 5 moral precepts for the regular person. The first one is not killing. It's for the sake of abandoning coarse defilements. If one's killing, then one has a coarse heart. One gets angry easily, and one can't be peaceful. And there's no way you can clearly see the truth. That's why we have the first moral precept, for the sake of developing loving kindness in one's heart. The second moral precept is not stealing. This is to prevent the defilement of greed. If one's stealing, then one's heart's very coarse. So we practice not stealing, we practice to renounce instead. And developing loving kindness, then we practice Dharma, which is giving. So by giving, sharing and not stealing, then we're supportive of everyone and our heart can be peaceful. The third moral precept is no sexual misconduct. So for monks, that means no sexual conduct. And for lay people, that means no harmful sexual conduct, of which there's many kinds. Adultery is one, and there are many other kinds of sexual misconduct. But if I describe them, I don't know if the translator will be able to translate them for you. Disobeying not keeping the third moral precept makes for a very coarse heart. It makes for a heart that wants a lot. But actually, that heart that wants a lot, if it gets what it wants, then it only makes for small happiness, and it makes for a lot of suffering, and it means no peace. So someone who wants a little with regard to this will actually have much peace. Then the fourth moral precept is about wrong speech. Practicing according to the fourth moral precept means no lying, speaking only the truth. And it means no abusive speech, insulting or causing arguments, no harsh speech, because we can cause so much harm with our speech, and also no useless speech. Avoiding useless speech, avoiding speaking too much or gossiping. Then the fifth moral precept is to give up drinking and taking intoxicants, because actually, even though it doesn't seem like much, there's a lot that you can lose by not keeping the fifth moral precept. The first thing that you lose is your mindfulness. The next thing that you lose is a lot of money. And then you end up getting into fights. And very importantly, you can lose your self of shame. And before you know it, you're being blamed and accused by everyone. And you lose all your good sense. So, maintaining sila is necessary, because if one doesn't maintain sila, then one can't give up one's defilements. And if one doesn't maintain sila, then one can't practice samadhi. So this is a very important basis. It leads to the second of the three trainings in Buddhism of sila, samadhi and panya. The second one, samadhi, refers to developing the heart through mental development or meditation. It's the work of making one's heart peaceful. And the Buddha taught many methods. In fact, the Buddha taught 40 different methods of practicing meditation. But I'm only going to speak to one method. First of all, whether you're standing, walking, or sitting, or lying down, please have mindfulness and be aware of your posture in every position. Keep the mindfulness with the body. That means the mind can go to samadhi, and the mind won't go out to proliferation on a lot of other topics. And then when you sit down and you're sitting meditation, then keep the mindfulness with the body, which means to be aware of one's posture. Sit straight. And all of this is taught in the Anapanasati Sutta. So sato wa asasati, sato wa asasati. So mindfully breathing in and mindfully breathing out. Just watching one's own breathing. When you breathe in, know that you're breathing in. And when you breathe out, be aware that you're breathing out. Just let the breathing be regular and natural. And also, the teachers in the Thai tradition, they teach us to use a parikamma as well. Using that parikamma, we use the parikamma of Buddha. So when you're breathing in, think of the Buddha and just recite the word Buddha. When you're breathing out, you recite the syllable to. So you're making the word Buddha, Buddha. As you're breathing in, Buddha. As you're breathing out, to. And just do this continually, and your breathing becomes more peaceful. Breathing becomes lighter. And your breathing will become more and more refined. The breath actually becomes smaller and smaller. And one devotes oneself to the task of keeping one's mindfulness following the breath as the breath becomes more and more refined. And using the parikamma then becomes less important as the practice becomes more and more refined. Sabbakaya patisangveti. Being aware of one's whole body and being aware of one's breathing. As the breath becomes more and more refined, and the heart goes to samadhi, then the heart also becomes very light. Keeping one's mindfulness with the breath continually just gives a rise to a lot of pleasure. One's got pleasure and happiness, and one's mind doesn't have any proliferation or annoyance. So one has happiness, and then with one's concentrated mind, one also has one-pointedness. This means that the heart's achieving real peace. And it's a very powerful state of mind. It's a penetrative state of mind. One can use one's mind to examine what one wants. So one should put one's mind to work. This is called vipassana. Vipassana means to use your mind to examine the world and see that it's impermanent and unsure. Even your in and out breath is constantly changing. And our bodies, as we grow, are constantly changing. Each of us grows from a young person to a middle-aged person and then to an old person. Every aspect of our bodies changes every day. We're all getting older every day. And there's no way that you can force your body to remain the same. This is because it's impermanent, it's uncertain. The body is impermanent and uncertain. And also, all of the things that we experience with our mind, our moods and feelings, those feelings which we call Vedana, they're also impermanent. And then what we call Sankhara, which is for all the thoughts and mental proliferations, they're also constantly changing and impermanent. Then what we call Vijnana, which is the mental consciousness or awareness, that's also constantly aware of different things. The consciousness is experiencing different things, constantly changing all the time. So seeing this constant changingness or uncertainty gives rise to a mental weariness. And then being weary, becoming weary of things, means seeing that they're not worthy of attaching. Seeing all those states, whether it's states of the body or states of the mind, that we're so used to giving a lot of importance to or attaching to, then we stop attaching and grasping to those things because we become weary of them. Or you can say we become dispassionate. And this is what leads the mind to freedom. So we've used the power of our samadhi to examine anicca, and then we should use the power of our mind to examine the phenomenon of dukkha. Dukkha means suffering. If you sit for a long time, then you'll naturally start to see suffering because your body becomes uncomfortable. If we consider all of the changes in the body, then that's suffering as well, the aging, sickness and death of the body. But change is also something that can hide suffering from us, because when we're sore, sitting in one posture, then we change and sit in another posture. When we're sore from sitting too long, then we stand up. When we're tired from standing up, that's when we lie down. But if you see all these changes in daily life, then you can see the suffering inherent, that no matter what we do, it doesn't lead to any kind of permanent comfort. When we're hungry, if we eat, then we get full. And we're full for a short time, then we're hungry again. Before we know it, then we need to use the toilet. And everyone in the world is like this. So if we can see all the bodily and mental formations as being made up of suffering, then we also become weary of these bodily and mental formations. And that's something else that, this is another method for undoing one's personal grasping and attachment. Just like in the Pali, which is in the scriptures, it's taught that when we see that all formations are impermanent, seeing that, then that leads to a sense of weariness, and that's actually the path to liberation. And seeing that all things are suffering, then that will give rise to weariness, and that's also the path to Nibbana. And seeing all Dhammas as not self is something that will lead to weariness and lead one to Nibbana. So when we talk about not self or anatta, that means we can't control things. We can't control our bodies or our minds and not have them change. We can't prevent our bodies from aging. We can't prevent our bodies from getting sick or from hurting. And there's no way we can prevent our bodies from dying. That's just the way the body is. And everyone's like this. Because all things in nature arise, exist for a while, and then they have to pass away. We can't control them. This is called being aware of anatta. Anatta means it doesn't belong to us. If it belongs to us, then we could control it. And then we could just say, may this body not age, and may it not hurt, and may we not die. And then everyone, given the choice not to die, no one would die. All conditions in the world arise, exist for a while, and then pass away. All things are beyond our control. And seeing this leads to weariness in things in the world. And seeing weariness in things in the world causes one to let go. One stops grasping and attaching. That's actually the purpose of Buddhism, is to let go. By seeing the impermanence, suffering, and not self in all things, then one lets go of grasping and attachment. If one can see this continually, then that's called seeing things as Dhamma. Seeing that all Dhammas shouldn't be grasped. When one's mind has samadhi, then one can see things clearly. And seeing things with wisdom, we can undo our grasping. This is called seeing the Dhamma, not grasping. Seeing that there's nothing worth wanting, nothing worth attaching to. Because no matter whoever we meet, then we have to part with them. No matter what we gain, then we have to lose that. And then having been born, then we have to die. So really there's nothing to be gained or achieved in this life. The only thing that can be achieved is Nibbana. And what nibbana means is to see that all things are not worthy of attaching to or grasping. Seeing this, then one can become free from the world. And that's what I'd like to leave with all of you. I'd like to leave that with everyone, no matter what your nationality might be, and no matter what your language might be. In the end, really, we're only different in language. But the language of Dhamma is the same for all of us. The experience of crying is the same for all of us. And no matter, everyone can recognize a crying person and the sounds and gestures they make like a child. And whether it's a Malaysian child or a Thai child, then that crying child is just a natural language of Dhamma, they're crying. Aging, sickness and death is also the language of Dhamma. It's something that's common to all of us. We all can understand that language of Dhamma, regardless of what language we speak. We can recognize someone who doesn't speak their language, and we can see that they're happy by looking at their face, or we can see that they're unhappy just by seeing their face. So I encourage you all to study the Dhamma, which means to practice and train in morality, concentration and wisdom, sila, samadhi and panya. And that panya or wisdom will lead you to let go of all things. So today I've said enough, I've said quite a lot, and now we're all getting drowsy. And if I say more, it's probably too much to be translated. In fact, how do I know that this is going to be translated correctly? Really got no sense of certainty that the translator can keep up with what I'm saying. But there's no way for me to know because I don't know the language. So I think I'll finish off now. It's enough for the time. So A1, that's the word that means this is the end of the Dhamma talk.